I'm Quinma with another Plus review, this time for Sakura Samurai Art of the Sword. I remember when this game was first announced, I was super excited for it. But then I didn't get it. It was then offered for free for a limited time for Nintendo members. But then I didn't get it. But when I heard that the eShop on 3DS was closing for good, that's when I finally got this game that I was so excited for back in 2011. So, time to see if it was worth the wait and lives up to the hype. Oh, and before we begin, just a quick reminder, the footage is from my camcorder and you can find a link to the full unedited trailer in the description below. Now, Sakura Samurai Art of the Sword was developed by Grounding Inc. and published by Nintendo exclusively for the 3DS eShop. Which doesn't exist anymore, but that's besides the point. Sakura Samurai Art of the Sword was released February 2nd, 2012 in North America, but it was originally released in Japan on November 16th, 2011 as Hirari Sakura Samurai, and later released in PAL regions on October 11, 2012 as Hana Samurai Art of the Sword. Not really sure why it was released under so many different names, but that's how it is. Grounding Inc. itself is an indie company founded by Mineko Okamura and made up of several ex-Sega employees. It appears that they are mostly known for smaller projects for phones and, well, places like the eShop. Now, why am I talking a little bit about the company instead of the development history of Sakura Samurai Art of the Sword? That's because I cannot find any development history outside of the releases, so instead of lingering on that, let's move on to the story. As usual, I'll provide a full story recap before moving on to my critiques of the story. So if you want to skip all of that, then you can skip to the time on screen. Now then, there once was a wonderful princess known as Princess Cherry Blossom who lived in a sacred tree. However, one day, she was taken from said tree. Without Princess Cherry Blossom's influence, heartless beings started to fight and bring war until the point where no one even remembered that Princess Cherry Blossom existed. Only one person remembered through the years, a lone Kappa. This Kappa believed that one day, a samurai that is pure of heart will rescue Princess Cherry Blossom and save the land. That day comes when a samurai goes to the Kappa's pond. The Kappa is surprised that someone is able to hear him and decides that this samurai must be the one that they were waiting for. So the Kappa powers up the samurai sword with the power of the cherry blossoms, making it the Sakura sword. The Kappa further decides to call this champion the Sakura Samurai. After some traversing, when the Sakura Samurai enters a village, he learns that the bridge has been shut by the lord of the castle. So the Sakura Samurai infiltrates the castle. After taking out the henchmen, the Sakura Samurai faces down with the lord himself. However, the Sakura Samurai is able to defeat the lord. He tells the Sakura Samurai that his princess is in another castle before vanishing. Well, the young samurai must have left an impression since the bridge then opens up. After traversing the land some more and coming across another village, the Sakura Samurai learns that there is a monk in the castle who is trying to suck up to the Dark Lord. Rumors are that there is a treasure in the monk's castle. Suspecting that this treasure is Princess Cherry Blossom, the Sakura Samurai goes to check it out. Upon reaching the innermost part of the castle, the Sakura Samurai is challenged by the monk. Despite the difficult battle, the Sakura Samurai comes out victorious. Perhaps due to the Sakura Samurai's strength, the monk decides to follow this protagonist instead. Nevertheless, the monk does not have Princess Cherry Blossom, but due to the monk's new loyalty to the Sakura Samurai, the former opens the gates so that the hero can continue forward. The Sakura Samurai then makes his way through a rocky region. He learns that the Dark Lord lives in a castle overlooking the region. After battling several foes on his way up the Lunar Pass, the Sakura Samurai makes it to the castle. There are a ton of enemies on the inside of the castle, more than any other location. Nevertheless, effortlessly, the Sakura Samurai makes it through this horde and to the Dark Lord. The Dark Lord taunts the Sakura Samurai. He acknowledges the hero's efforts. However, the Dark Lord will not give up Princess Cherry Blossom because she has the power of the gods. Therefore, is an endless supply of power for him. The Dark Lord is undoubtedly powerful, but the Sakura Samurai is eventually able to overcome the villain. After his defeat, the Dark Lord plans to use the power of Princess Cherry Blossom. However, the Kappa has already gathered the bottle that the princess is trapped in. He throws it towards the Sakura Samurai, who slices it open to free Princess Cherry Blossom. The princess thanks the samurai and returns to her sacred tree so that she may heal the hatred that spread across the land, assumingly ending the war. And after the credits roll, we see that peace has indeed returned as the Kappa rests by the sacred cherry blossom tree. Going in, I was expecting a short, simple story, and that is exactly what I got, where special protagonist boy goes to rescue a damsel in distress. However, it was even shorter than I thought it would be. I can hardly believe that there are only 3 bosses, because I was under the impression that there would be at least 5. Let me be clear, I am not annoyed that the story was short and sweet. What I am annoyed about is that the pacing was not that great. When I beat the second boss, I was under the impression that I was going into mid-game territory. However, I was instead, in actuality, going into endgame territory. I do not need more bosses to appear story-wise, but I do need more bosses to support a game's pacing and add to a game's challenge. That being said, the story has some wasted potential. The beginning states that war broke out due to the loss of Princess Cherry Blossom. However, it feels like we never see anything come out of that. The monk is 100% loyal to the Dark Lord, and it feels like the Lord of the Castle also pledges allegiance to the Dark Lord. Then the regular enemies simply seem as either wild bandits or minions of the region's boss, so if there are warring states, where are they? Why does it seem like we don't ever see any evidence of this war that's been raging for such a long period? Princess Cherry Blossom returns to her tree to bring peace, but peace to what? If this game was not going to show the war, even as simple background details, then there was no need to mention one. Just as an example, the story could have been that there's a princess who is related to the gods, but was kidnapped by a Dark Lord. The Sakura Samurai then goes to rescue the princess, but the Dark Lord has minions to block his way as this chosen one tries to save her. Making the story simpler than it already was would negate the need to show evidence of the constant war, therefore meaning there is no Chekhov's gun that needs to be fired. I would also like to note something I found a little strange about the localization of the game. Why is Princess Cherry Blossom's name not Princess Sakura? The latter rolls off the tongue easier, provides the same meaning, and Sakura is even in the title of the game. If we already have the Sakura Samurai and the Sakura Sword, then the Sakura Princess just continues with the naming theme. The only excuse I can think of is that maybe the localization team thought that using Sakura in so many different places would make things confusing. However, with so few named characters, I do not believe that that would be a problem. Like I said, I wasn't expecting anything grand when it comes to the story of this game. What I got was serviceable. I just wish it was paced better. What I was expecting and certainly looking forward to was the gameplay. This is not your typical action game. In fact, patience is the key to win. This is because the best and expected way to play is to wait for your opponent to attack and then counterattack. In fact, the default is being locked to a square. However, by holding the X button, you can move around the area freely. But when you're running around freely, you are unable to easily see the tells that the opponent is going to attack. Besides, you can move around even when locked to a square by using the dodge button anyway. So while it is nice that the option to run around freely exists, it really isn't needed. Then, if you dodge an opponent at the last moment, you earn a precision point. Precision points can be sold for 1 gold each. You have to be careful though. Some enemies will occasionally attack multiple times, indicated by a yellow effect rather than a red effect. And sometimes enemies will go into a rage, which will make them not only hit multiple times, but they are also faster and stronger. Of course, bosses do this too on a more extreme level. Now, you will lose every precision point you earned if you get hit even once or hit an enemy who is blocking. So it is best to sell them as soon as possible, especially if you manage to build up a lot during the battle. Dodging at the last moment has other benefits too. It's a lot easier to do 2 hits if you did the perfect dodge, as there is a possibility that if you didn't react fast enough, then the enemy will block your attack. If you hit an opponent who is blocking, then not only will you lose your precision points, but you will also damage your sword. Yep, The sword has its own invisible health bar, and when it is in the damaged state, it will do less damage, though it is still usable. It didn't break, it just isn't very strong anymore. But you can heal your sword by using a whetstone. Other regular items you can get are sweet buns that refill your health, frogs that will interrupt an enemy attack, and kunai which you can use to hit faraway opponents. There are also a couple of temporary items, being the invisible feather rope, which will temporarily make you invincible to enemy attacks, and the kappa amulet, which will revive you once. All of these items are displayed on the bottom screen. Something else displayed on the bottom screen is what special you have. These specials do a lot of damage to a lot of opponents, but you will have to build it up by hitting and dodging enemy attacks. During my playthrough, I only had the lowest level special, but as I learned in a different mode, there are actually stronger versions of the special. However, I was unable to figure out how to unlock them. Taking your sword to a blacksmith, who will increase the power and durability of your sword, is not where you go to unlock the stronger specials, and neither is going to the kappa who sneaks around in the wells in town, though the kappa is able to help you out. When you die and are booted back to the overworld map, the kappa will appear at one of the battles available to you. When you go into a battle with the kappa, the enemies will drop more money and items than normal. So a legitimate strategy for making lots of money is to defeat all but one enemy and then let the last enemy kill you, because you get to keep all the money you earned regardless of if you win or not. Then the kappa will reappear somewhere else on the map, allowing you to rinse and repeat until you have the amount of money that you need. Money isn't just used to buy items either, as you need to pay the blacksmith to increase your sword's level, and you also have to pay money at inns in order to heal yourself back to full. Money is also used to participate in minigames, though these minigames don't really break up the normal gameplay. Each minigame is a variation of slicing a moving object, something you already do in combat anyway, it's just in the minigame you don't dodge. Another additional mode are the thug challenges, where you select to battle either 30, 50, or 100 thugs all in a row and see how far you get. Lastly, there is a mode called the Rock Garden. In order to make your rock garden grow, you need to take real-life steps in the outside world. The more real steps you take, the better your rock garden will be. Since I was unable to unlock the higher level special attacks during normal gameplay, and since there's a consistent theme of cherry blossoms throughout the whole game, my assumption is that getting a better rock garden will unlock those stronger specials. However, I could not find evidence for that online, nor another way to unlock the stronger specials, so this is all speculation because there was no way I was going to take a stroll with my 3DS just for this review. But I'm sure the rock garden looks really nice when at max level. Also, on a note on the visual presentation, I like the art style. I would call it cute, to be honest. The character designs and town background certainly evoke the time period that this game is supposed to take place in. It is a shame though that every town looks exactly the same. I think the only difference in each town is the design of the people who will give you the minigames. I do like the backgrounds in general, however the cliffside battlefields and outer castle battlefields can get kind of old, especially the latter because it is used a lot during the Thug Challenge. The inside castle battlefields are interesting though. The overworld map is handy, but it can take a while for the Sakura Samurai to walk to a level that was selected if it is far away. And since the only place you can save in the game is in the towns, these long walks can happen rather often. The design of the overworld map is nothing to write home about, but it is serviceable. Something else serviceable is the item menu on the bottom screen. There's not much I can say about it because it does just show your items and special that is equipped. But the background is pretty, though this very background is just the standard background used for the title screen and marketing material, but that doesn't change the fact that it's interesting. The standout though are the character designs, especially for the main characters and bosses. I would say my favorite character designs in this game is the Sakura Samurai himself and the final boss character. The auditory presentation isn't exactly my favorite though. While the music does support the setting and time period, it isn't memorable. The sound effects are fine. They serve their purpose, indicating to the player that an enemy is attacking, along with typical slash and yells. Now I saved my favorite presentation note for last, and that is the minigames. When you succeed in a slice, the crowd cheers for the success, but groan in pity when missing. I really liked this because I thought it was cute and made me feel special since the entire town comes out to see you perform. Now I would like to note that I played a little bit off camera to see if playing in 3D would affect the presentation or not. And I can confirm that this is a game that needs 3D. Not only does it look better, but it is also much easier to tell when objects and enemies are coming towards you. There aren't a lot of games where I feel like I can only ever play in 3D, but this has made that tiny list. To be honest, when it comes to my final thoughts on this game, it is hard to pin down. What I said right after beating it was, I think I like it, but did I really like it? Or was I just deluding myself into thinking I like it? I like the character designs, and it looks really good in 3D, but the backgrounds and audio presentations are forgettable. This story is exactly what I thought it'd be, but the pacing was not good at all. Though what I was excited about the most anyways was the gameplay. And even as I'm writing this review, I keep going back and forth in my head if I did like the gameplay. Even though I've seen the trailer multiple times, I was still somehow under the impression that it would be a typical action game. It is still a game all about reactions, but for defense rather than offense. Granted, I did have fun learning the enemy patterns, and thought that if the game was longer, then that would cement me into liking the gameplay without question. However, when I did the Thug Challenge runs, all 3 levels of it, it felt more like going through the motions rather than a super fun challenge. Then the minigames didn't feel like it broke up the gameplay at all. I don't like doing this, but I have to admit, I am mixed on Sakura Samurai Art of the Sword. I want to like it, and I have no doubt I'll replay it at some point, but there are so many factors that hold it back. If I had gotten this game when it was free for Nintendo members instead of the 2 games I did get, then I probably would be more lenient to it. But since I spent, I think, somewhere around $10 Canadian on it, and the game did not equate to even $1 an hour due to how short it is, I am questioning if it was worth the money. I do feel like I'm left with this strange feeling after finishing this game. It unfortunately did not live up to my personal hype, but it is fun for the most part. So if the eShop was still a thing, I think I could recommend it, and I will look forward to a potential replay in the future.